Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we are live. So good afternoon and good morning to everybody. This is Black Mental Health Matters, a show where we talk about Black mental health issues that affect us all around the world. Before we start, I would like to have the Honorable David introduce himself.
To have a blast of our once again. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, can you hear me?
There is an interrupted feedback.
There is an interrupted feedback.
Let me see if I can fix it. My apologies.
No, but I think you can talk.
My apologies. No, I think you can talk. I think you can.
Okay, while we get that sorted out, I will just quickly introduce myself. My name is Deborah Owusu, and I am here in the diaspora. I do have a passion for mental health issues, especially during this time, during COVID-19. There are a lot of things that are going on, and people are really going through a lot in the world. So it is our responsibility, regardless of your religion, regardless of what you believe in. I believe that we are a global family, and we should all take care of each other and be accountable for each other. So we definitely need to practice unity, and we need to make sure that we're all okay. Not everybody is able to afford counseling, expensive counseling services. So I really do like these forums where we could come on and be honest, have honest conversations, and talk about what is really bothering us and what is going on, and also how we can move forward to heal each other. So it is an honor and it is a pleasure to be with all of you guys today. Um, the topic for today is actually abuse and neglect during COVID-19. So it's going to be really an interesting topic, and I really can't wait to get started. Let's see if we can try the introduction once more. Please go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Go ahead. Please go ahead. Yes, yes. Hello? Go ahead. Please go ahead.
There is
Yes,
some
yes.
feedback.
Hello?
I'm
Go
not
ahead.
sure.
Yes, yes.
Do you by any chance have the other YouTube or the other Facebook tab open? Okay, the show must go on. So, the topic again for today is abuse and neglect at this time. So, with abuse would encompass physical abuse, mental abuse, and verbal abuse. I believe for the purposes of this topic, we will be talking about both, but most importantly, also physical abuse. Abuse isn't always physical as well, though. It can be mental, it can be too many insults, things like that. During a time like this where some countries are in lockdown, um, there are a lot of women and children that are actually going through this right now, and it's not being reported because everybody's home. So, that is one form of the abuse that unfortunately is going on at the moment. Now, when we're talking about neglect is a form of abuse as well, but neglect is mostly, it's not even just being left alone, it's not being properly taken care of, and it's purposefully not, I don't really know how to describe it, but neglect would be purposefully, mindfully, um, ignoring that person and ignoring those person's needs and wants, mostly the needs at this time. So, neglect could also be emotional neglect, it could be physical neglect if we're looking at certain relationships as well. When I think of neglect, I do think of a lot of marriages, and I also think of children, parents who are maybe not able to take care of children right now. And it is something that does make us concerned and sad, especially at this time. Honorable David, did you have anything to add uh, to this? I think he's frozen. But yeah, neglect is definitely something that is going to happen. And we have to just make sure that we are accountable for each other and make sure that in our circles things doesn't like that don't happen. How do we take care of neglect in our community? I don't really know. All I can say is in terms of neglect, we have to make sure that one way that we do take care of each other is that we check up on each other. And if you even have any friends who, those friends that they act like they're okay, those are usually the ones that we really have to check on because physically they can say that they're okay, but mentally something could be really going on. Okay, Honorable David, you can go ahead. Okay, we aren't, at least I'm not able to hear. Okay, continuing forward on the topic, the effects of neglect and the effects of this mental health abuse can become very dire. Not only is it bad for children, but it's also very bad for adults. But I'm going to talk about the case for children just for a little bit. In the case of children, it's very bad for children because it actually impacts their development. As we know, with children, their formative years are before the age of 7. So everything that happens to a child before 7 is something that can potentially cause harm in the future. So, if a child deals with neglect, whether it be mental, physical, a lot of people don't understand also that children can be affected by physical neglect. Physical neglect would be it would be, in some cases, some parents really don't like to show affection. So they don't really like to hug their children. They don't like to touch their children. That really can mess with the psyche of a child, whether being male or female, because as they get older, it may be something that, due to them being brought up that way, they will think that it's a taboo. They'll be afraid to show their emotions. So that is something that we also see, that when they become adolescents, when they become teenagers, they're not really able to formulate healthy relationships because from the core, from the beginning, that healthy relationship and that example that their parents were supposed to lead by, it wasn't there. I've noticed, and I don't want to get too much off topic, but I've noticed a lot of men um, in the Black community, they suffer from this. They suffer from the taboo of, there wasn't enough connection, there wasn't enough physical touch, and then when they get older, it's something that they're not really able to express in public or even express in their own households. So that can be very problematic. Um, Also, in terms of verbal abuse, we understand that verbal abuse, some people use it all the time and they think that it's funny. But the problem with verbal abuse is when it becomes normal um, in your life. When do you know when to stop? When do you know when the limits are? You know, and also, we know that if you've been introduced to a certain type of behavior all of your life, you normalize it. And the issue with normalizing certain types of behavior is that you become desensitized. You become desensitized. So when you are supposed to be treated properly and when you are supposed to be treated a certain way, you are a bad character. You're a bad judgment of character because you yourself have never been treated that way. You can't demand something that you've never experienced for yourself. So that's something that we all should need to make sure that we're paying attention to. Yes, we can hear you, Honorable David. Yes, you could go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I've been challenged by the network for some time now, and I would like to apologize to all our viewers and members that even right in the capital city, I know that this show was going to be one of the memorable ones, but I still have problem with the network. That is quite an issue. But notwithstanding, I think looking at today's topic, it is an important topic that we need to speak on during these times of our dreaded or dreadful pandemic that has hit the entire world. And speaking from the perspective of a mental health professional, we have seen a lot of issues as being what has happened because of COVID-19, and we still holding on to that, and we are working on what should happen and what we need to do. So members out there on Black mental health matters, we would like to speak on what is currently happening around the globe. And in as much as we speak on that, there is an important topic of which my other panelists have spoken about, which is neglect abuse as a result of this pandemic. So in as much as this pandemic has hit us, we still have to work on some issues. And today we're going to talk on neglect and abuse as a result of this pandemic, having concerns on our mental health. Yes, thank you very much, and we appreciate that you are all still staying on and you will be contributing to whatever that will be happening. Yes, I'm sure the network is quite stable now, and I'm waiting for my other panelists to join so that yes, honorable, I think you can now hear me. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was saying is that today we're going to speak on COVID-19, not forgetting some of the issues it has brought to our mental health. And those critical issues was on neglect and abuse. The pandemic has brought a lot of issues to us in terms of our mental health needs. And one of them is neglect and the other is abuse. So when we talk about neglect, what do we seek to look at for? Neglect is not performing your duties or roles, which you are expected to do as a parent, um, as a child, probably as an institution holder, in any sphere you find yourself. That means that you shedding your mandated rules and you refusing to perform them. Yes. Then what is abuse? That is you trying to cause some form of trauma on someone due to some situation or whatever, all intentionally. But now we are saying that our mental health is the way we think, the way we act, the way we behave, the way we relate with others, and the way we perform our chores from moment to moment. Mental health is momental because even if you are okay now, in the next 1 minute, anything at all can happen to your way, the way you think, and everything could change. So mental health is very momental. That is from time to time. That is the way we relate to people, the way we behave, the way we act, and the way we think from time to time. That is could be in the next 1 second, in the next 1 minute, in the next 1 hour, in the next 1 day, in the next 1 month, 1 year, and for whatever it may be. So for us to be able to have been influenced by the things we have of late. We have domestic violence, we have partner abuse, we have neglect, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that the COVID-19 has brought during the lockdown. In all countries, it has been reported that there are a lot of abuses at home during this lockdown, because you find people confined at a place for the period that the state put out for them to stay at home. And a lot of people are having challenge. That relationship is being deprived, even how to be able to feed themselves, especially people who find themselves on menial jobs. It became a problem. So there were a lot of things some of us were looking at when we wanted to talk about this topic. Neglect, is it intentional or unintentional? Some people, it's intentional because they are using the COVID-19 as a bait. Oh, because of COVID-19, I cannot do this. Because of COVID-19, oh, I cannot do ABCD. Some of them, it is very intentional. They should be able to provide for their families. And because of COVID-19, oh, this one there is because of COVID-19, I cannot even help. Because of COVID-19, I cannot give you your lunch and your dinner and your breakfast. These things all are intentional. The unintentional ones is people who have lost their jobs, and now the family burden is on them. And these are the things that we must look out for in real cases. And also the intentional ones, some of them have mental problems. When they subject someone to pain, they never know. When they subject someone to trauma, they never know. So these are the things we look out for. Some people too, with their abuse, most of the children who stay in extended homes, or maybe who stay with other people, not their biological parents, even biological parents have been sexually molested, abused during this lockdown, because father is at home, not going anywhere, wife is not there, maybe the house help is there. Who does he look for to motivate himself? Watching TV for the next 40 days? No, probably it's the house help, is the person staying with them that he will try to abuse to make himself satisfied. That is virtually what we see now. And a lot of pregnancies have come during this lockdown periods in all regions and all nations. So, and this has put a lot of pressure on our mental health and has resulted in a lot of conditions. One, there were a lot of depressive cases that a lot of people have come up with. Two, anxiety disorders have increased. Three, there were a lot of domestic violence cases that have been reported just after the lockdown was lifted. Why is it so? Because all these things all were clinched on the COVID-19 as a yardstick that made them do such things. You see, so the COVID-19 is a very bad master, and that bad master has not come to do good to humanity. It has come to cause more problems to humanity. But what do we need to do? We have to look at the various ways we can, as a people, look at what we can do. As a professional, I do engage people on advocacy, mental health advocacy. Let's tell them the reality on ground. You are actually going to face a lot during these hard times. But during these hard times, when you face a lot, if you have saved enough, you have enough of resources, don't neglect your core responsibility. When was the last time you sent money to your mom? You sent money to your dad? You sent money to probably your wife? The lockdown is a region, you are also in another region. So how are you able to do that? Even now, a lot of people have been sacked from their jobs also. And these are the things we look out for. Neglect and abuse is very real. But the most difficult situation is that people who are abused are always seen less privileged. That word, I want our dear listeners to listen. People who are abused, who are neglected, are always less privileged. So they don't actually know who will hear their story. So in as much as they don't know who will hear their story, they have that inborn pain in them. Who will listen to me? Who am I going to speak to? Looking at the higher authority that is abusing, that is neglecting me, if I move forward, will I be able to tackle him and face him head on to be able to fix his responsibility and solve his responsibility issues? That is the mark we have, that it has always been with us. So those people most of the times feel stigmatized regarding the situation. Yes, because if my uncle I stay with during the lockdown refused to give me probably my spending money, and I'm going to report to the police or whichever organization is responsible to look at some of these things, do you think I can still come home and face my uncle? That will be very difficult. Maybe my boss is not paying my salary, but I do go to work in the home even during the lockdown. But my boss will tell me that, yes, I cannot do this. So in terms of abuse and neglect, it comes in various forms. For the abuse, I was saying that when I'm talking about abuse, I always want to hint on the partner abuse. And in the partner abuse, we have physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, psychological abuse, financial abuse. All those things are there because your partner, who is capable and responsible to do all these things, will abuse you in one of these. If he's not giving you that freedom to express yourself, the person could be abusing you. Yes, so we must look out for this. So in as much as all these things happen in a relationship, even when you get to every circle of the society, we have been abused in all these things. Financial abuse is there, emotional abuse is there, psychological abuse is there, financial abuse is there, physical abuse is there, and even nutritional abuse. People are being denied to feed. I told someone that I was looking into a case. The child was being abused nutritionally because they supposed to have been giving the person food, but they said he was doing A, B, C, D. Why? And in the lockdown, this abuse was very common because their foodstuffs will not reach the lockdown. Therefore, they give people who stay with other people very small amount of food that cannot sustain them in terms of their nutritional needs. Then probably to even having that kind of opportunity to interact. Socialization abuse. People are being taken from shackles. People are taken from homes that they never see the light. They are never allowed to even move out and eat, even after the lockdown. People are even still under lockdown. Some people are even being abused now as we talk because of the situation they find themselves. And especially most of our young ones of African descent who travel to these Arab countries, most of them do call some of us that in fact the home I am facing a lot. Somebody could just bounce on me, the person I stay with, that I lie down for him to have sex with me. I dare not complain. They work 24/7 non-stop. These are the things we must look out for. We are not trying to blame someone here, but these things are happening. That even ladies that they send out there to those countries, of which I can name a few: Jordan, Lebanon, United Arab Emirates. Most of them do call some of us. They have our numbers on platforms that in fact they are going through a lot. And in fact, Libya and stuff, those people do not go through the right routes. Yes. So it depends on the situation you find yourself. You could go as an immigrant looking for a job, and probably in an event of that, these things could happen. Yes, I know a lot of people have some stories to share, but how are we tackling this neglect and abuse? It is about our mental orientation. Before I come to the mental orientation, I was abuse. Yes, I hope you can hear me.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so some of the cultural values that we were born into have actually created that kind of barrier to ensuring that we are removed from these kind of situations of neglect and abuse. Because in some of the cultures I have looked into, most of them are proponents of abuse. They are very, should I say, fertile grounds to abuse people in terms of their culture. because in some cultures, even if not now, women were not allowed to even eat meat. Yes. So you can even see that some of them, in terms of those nutritional needs, it was quite real. Eggs, they will tell you as a woman, our culture does not allow that you eat egg. How? Why? Where? And these are some of the things. So we have a lot to tackle. So I want to say that as a mental health advocate, the human brain, every part of the brain has its function: the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and every part. The way you think, the way you act, the way you behave is being regulated by your part of the brain. Notwithstanding that during this pandemic, a lot of things has happened to nations, a lot of things has happened to individuals, and a lot of things has happened to communities. But neglect has never been spoken about. As we have this platform on the Black Mental Health Matters, we want to use this platform to tell our viewers that neglect and abuse is real, and they should be ready to come out and voice out. We are giving them the opportunity, the voice of the abuse, the voice of the neglect, so that we see what we can do to supporting them, giving them the, should I say, that feeling, that belongingness, that there is an opportunity and there is a platform for you to come make your voice heard, so that we can support you in terms of psychological first aid, in terms of psychological orientation. Because when I was just looking at this topic for today, I didn't write anything because the issues that we have are with us. I don't need any encyclopedia. I don't need any book to research. Elderly abuse, very common during the pandemic. You have a father, you never mind. You have a mother, you never mind to do anything to supporting him. So maybe I will have to pause here if you have any concerns to raise for me, because I have spoken and I want to tell our viewers that as our platform is Black Mental Health Matters, the mental health concerns of people of African descent is very, very paramount to us, and this is what we seek to champion. Courtesy His Excellency Daniel from Kenya, who is our founder and executive director of Global Pan-Africanism Network. And as we speak, he's doing a lot with other professionals to see that mental health in respective countries have a facelift. He first identified that some people can support, and today, God be so good, we have this platform that we are hearing views, concerns, and talking on important topics. Neglect and abuse is real. I was looking at some statistics. They said 6 out of 10 every elderly persons or people are being abused by their immediate siblings or by their immediate persons, people who should be, helping them are rather abusing them. So I will pause here to let you come in, then we see the way forward. We have a lot to share, and I know our viewers also have a lot to talk on when we open the opportunity for them to send their concerns. But notwithstanding, they can be sending their concerns. It's right at our homes. Neglect is not far from us. It's right in all homes. All homes. When you even deny your kid to feed because he has bedwetted, you are abusing that kid. Some of our parents do that. They deny you food because you bedwetted the previous night just to punish you. That is not fine. Denying your kid of his or her school fees is not fine. Denying your spouse of his emotional needs is not fine. But also, when those demands are made in terms of partner-wise, and your partner tells you that I am not comfortable, you must be ready to understand and listen, so that you make amends and be able to push for a common, should I say, journey that you all move to reach a good destination. So I will let you in to bring something small to our viewers. on this important topic. I know you have something to say to our viewers, which you are still keeping. Bring it out and let them hear on Black Mental Health Matters. Honorable Angela, Deborah, we are so grateful that we have a wonderful woman like you to share some of the things that you have gone through or you have experienced or you have seen that colleagues, women, and also men. I've told women that, in fact, you don't need empowerment, but you need what? Realization of the power that you have. In every single home, women are people that keep homes. Women know they nature we the men to be who we are. If I have a wife and I want to go out and speak, my wife will tell me what to speak and what not to speak. So you are actually empowered from day one. But it's just about realization of that empowerment. Women control women in spheres of our lives, in terms of finances, in terms of our feeding, in terms of our wear, everything. A woman will always bring up a man to be a responsible man. Therefore, we owe you that gratitude. We owe you that kind of accolade that you have been empowered by some of us. And we are saying that let's realize that empowerment and see how best we can avoid some of these abuses and neglects at home. If some women step their foot forward to challenge some men, some of these things wouldn't be happening. But most of them, they want to always be at the back. They want to retreat, beat back the retreat and be sitting unconcerned, aloof on some of these issues. That is why issues of such are still paramount and happening in our communities, homes, and societies, and some of the regions. So, can you come in now for them to hear you speak to them to be able to pick something home for we avoiding and also solving the problems of neglect and abuse totally in respective homes? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I have to rewatch this because I want to take down some notes. It's a lot of information, but thank you so much. You're very knowledgeable in this topic. What I wanted to add to this topic is basically just to add on what you said about women. I'm a woman myself, so I tend to be very biased against women. I don't really like to talk about the failures of men too much. I like to mostly focus on women and what we can do. And I've noticed in a lot of cultures, whether it be mostly African, but also a lot of immigrant cultures as well, it's not really looked upon for a woman to express her thoughts. It is just assumed that if you are in a household where the man is the main provider, that you as a woman, you always have to come last and your family has to come first. I don't really know what that sentiment. I feel like if you don't take care of your mental health, right? If you don't take care of your mental health, how can you be a good example for your children? And how can you give someone else something that you yourself are lacking? So I don't want to say that I'm trying to pit anybody against each other, but honestly, you can't give someone love if you're lacking love. You know, you can't give someone insight if you yourself are lacking insight. So, what you mentioned earlier about women empowerment, I feel like yes, it's as simple as a change of mindset. You know, women women have to be more comfortable to speak about things that are bothering them, especially now during this time. In a lot of cultures, when you talk about these things, you will be ostracized. People will say you're a problem. Okay, why are you complaining? Blah, 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 blah. But really, we have to change the narrative and we have to change the tune. A lot of issues, even if I'm not a doctor, by the way, but I believe that even if you don't take care of your mental, that could really affect your physical, right? A lot of issues that people have right now is due to stress, anxiety, overthinking, this and that. These are all things that if we had more avenues to talk about, maybe it would be better for other people, you know, because in the type of societies that we grow up in, they say that if you have problems, you should just deal with it. It's just life. Those are the cards that you're dealt with. Even in some churches, if you go to some churches,
Yeah. Hello. Hello, Honorable. Yeah, I think she has spoken. She has spoken, and I'm still waiting on her to see what the issues are. Yes. Yes.
sorry about that.
Yeah, Honorable, can you hear me?
Yes.
So what I think you have spoken. So we want you to speak from the perspective of women who are in relationship, who are married. In terms of neglect and abuse, they are very key to that issue. What do they do in order to be able to identify that they are being abused or fellow women are being abused? What do you normally see in we the men who always abuse you? What do you normally see? Because these things all will help them to build that kind of consciousness and be able to even tackle some of the neglects before they come into play. So what should you be seeing in a man that is very abusive or very neglective? Yeah.
What should we be seeing in a man that is abusive?
Yes.
I would say somebody, normally when it comes to abuse like that, it's somebody who doesn't like you having even friends. I know some people will say that if you're married, you shouldn't have friends. I think that if you're married, you shouldn't have, personally, you shouldn't have too many single friends. But I don't see any problem with you having other friends that are also married. But somebody who's trying to abuse you will keep you away from anybody. So it can be any type of friend. It could be any type of even religious institution, and most importantly, it's other family. They don't want you to have other contacts. They want you to be alone. So yeah, a man who's trying to physically abuse you wants to have complete control of you, at least more than 70%. So it gets to a point where your opinion is not even yours anymore. His opinion has to be the most important opinion. So, as I mentioned before, he does not want you to have a social life. Some of them, they would rather you be close to their family, but when it comes to your own family, like your own parents, your own brothers and sisters, when you say, okay, I'm going over there to visit, they're not happy with it. I've also seen a case in a workplace where there was a woman and she wasn't even allowed to go home by herself. Like for her to take a car to go back home, it had to be at the call or at the control of the husband, because after work, the husband didn't want her to go anywhere, like to go to the market or to do certain things. Her schedule, as soon as she left the house, it would have to be straight. Okay, I'm leaving at 10:30. I'm coming back at 3 o'clock. There was no room for any type of extra activities, anything like that. So whenever work would finish, sometimes it would just say, okay, well, do you want to do this? Do you want to come here and do that? I would understand if she said, oh, I have to ask my husband. But in case of her case, she would just say, oh, I can't do it. Like she wouldn't even ask, because she would know that if she were to ask to go somewhere, her husband would automatically say no. So those are the type of behaviors that I think is really suspect. Um, there's nothing wrong with being honest in a relationship and being honest with your spouse, but when you're treated like a child, And when you're treated like you don't have a mind of your own, and that one person can control every single action and move that you make, that is a huge problem, you know. And in some cultures, people see it as normal because they'll say that uh, the man is the head of the house, and that is true, but it's a partnership, you know. It's not complete dominance. You still have to be able to have an opinion, you still have to be able to do other things, and you also still have to be able to speak to others. So if you're in a relationship and somebody is not even letting you speak to other people, that is a major major red flag, because why would that person not want you to speak to other people? What is that person trying to hide, you know? So I don't know. If you're already married, all I can say is try to get a hold of your family. Try to get a hold of a second opinion if possible.
Okay, thank you very much. All that Honorable Angela is saying is that if you are married and you like to probably have friends, those friends should be people that are also married. Do not
Yeah.
hang around with friends that are single, because birds of the same feathers, they flock together. And whatever those single, should I say, women are engaging, you could be tagged as one of them or even influencing them, depending on whatever they find themselves doing. And you know, the society respect women for probably being married. And we are not saying that if you are single, it's not being recognized, but the society holds a different, should I say, opinion on people who are married to those who are not married, because there are some things you cannot do when you are married, and there are some things you can do when you are not married. Yes, so we must understand that. And also we must look at our culture, because our culture always prescribe what our women should do. And at times it actually goes a long way to affecting some of them in some way or the other, because culture is dynamic. Culture should be changed from time to time. They find a situation whereby our culture since 1900s, we still hold on to some values, and those values are being shaped by people that do not understand what we're going through when some of the values are placed on us. So are women at times, my question to you is that, are women at times having issues when it comes to some of the cultural values they find their marriages in? And if yes, what are some of the approaches that most are doing to get that solved, or to work at that? Because we know some of the cultures, you cannot do anything to solve those issues, where you must move in your relationship with your family and so on and so forth. What has culture done? Is culture placing a lot of boundaries and also promoting neglect and abuse? If yes, what are the stance of women in helping solving some of these issues? Because we have barely 10 minutes of our time. We always use an hour for this talk. And all that I want people to speak on or to understand us is that neglect is from the way we think, abuse is from the way we think. Everything starts from our brain. People, and I was saying that we have intentional and unintentional neglect and abuse. People will actually abuse you and they will be conscious about that abuse. People will neglect you and they will be conscious about that neglect. So some too, it's just about the situation at hand that has called for that. So what do we see in terms of most of our cultures of people of African descent? Because we are speaking on uh, mental health of people of African descent. And I was happy when we were speaking on stigma regarding these particular things. COVID-19 has brought us here, and we are speaking on neglect and abuse, that it is happening in our homes. And this neglect and abuse has brought about what? One, depression. Two, anxiety, panic disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders. You can mention most of the mental illnesses, suicide attempt, suicide. Most people have committed suicide as a result of this pandemic because they were having issues in terms of their finances, they were having issues in terms of their relationship, and most of them have also been impregnated. Most are facing a lot of challenges due to this pandemic just because somebody who is responsible to do something for them has refused or has just decided that I will not do ABCD for you. So as a result, they will say because of our culture, because of this, what is the stance of women in this affair of our abuse and neglect in terms of our cultural values as people of African descent, of which we like our people who are also holding cultural values and shaping them from moment to moment to also know that we have a feeling, we have that belongingness, and we have that kind of growth, that development that we think some of the values should be reshaped, some of the values should be relooked at to suit current demands and needs. So you have the platform to speak to us. What culture has placed on you women in terms of abuse and what you are seeing in children. In fact, children are the most affected, though we are looking at women in terms of neglect and abuse. I think you attest to the fact, Honorable, that children are the most affected during this pandemic because for we women and adult men will be able to marshal our way through where we have some issues. But children have been hit hard during this pandemic in terms of some of these neglect
Yeah.
cases and abuse cases. So what do you have to tell us? And most of the children, they are part of the less privileged and the voiceless, the people who cannot go extra mile to solving some of the issues that they face. Yes. What do you have regarding this issue that is happening to us now? Culture abuse, the less privileged, especially children, of which I know women are in the forefront of children. Thank you.
Yes. So in terms of how this affects the children, it's usually it can be in multiple ways, but the most two popular ways I can talk about, the first is just by viewing that abuse that's happening to the parents. So if the children see that abuse, they internalize it, and depending on their gender, it can affect them as well, because if they're a female, then they understand, okay, my mom went through this, my mommy went through this, so if she accepted it, me as a female growing up, a female child, I will see that and I'll say that's acceptable too. You know, I'll be afraid to complain about it. If it's a male child, the male child will see that and say, okay, this is how I should also treat the women in my life, especially when I get older. Now, in terms of the other aspect, is when it happens to them. When it happens to them, I think that is just, it's the scariest part. And that usually happens because of a failure of their protector to protect them, or their protector has become the aggressor and gives them that treatment. This affects children in their self-esteem. So I know a lot of us have seen it where sometimes children go to school, there's something that's happening at home, and automatically it affects their studies. They can't relate to other children. Like, they're traumatized. And because they're traumatized and there's nobody to talk to, they just have to deal with it. Because I've noticed that sometimes when children say things, people don't take it seriously. It's sad. But sometimes when children say things, people think that it's a joke or it's cute, it's funny, but they don't, it's not as serious, because some people will say, oh, well, what does this child know? So what happens is children usually internalize it, and they don't deal with it until they're in their teenage years. That's when you'll see the effects of it. So if they were abused when they were young, they're more likely to abuse other people when they become teenagers, whether it be physically or mentally, because it happened to them when they were a kid. Nobody protected them. Nobody told them it was wrong, or maybe they told somebody about it, but nobody took it serious. So that's usually what happens. And I hate to use such a bad example, but an example I'll use is pedophilia, right? When it happens
Okay.
to somebody, when it happens to somebody and they're young, when they're older, it's usually the same example. They do it when they're older. So when it comes to children, I think what we need to do is we need to take whatever children say more serious. You know, I always say this: if they say something and it sounds silly, let's investigate it. Let's just investigate it anyways before we form an opinion on whether they're right or wrong. You know, we definitely have to take the opinions and the voices of our children a little bit more serious, especially during this time, you know, because there are a lot of things happening. And how we can stop it in our own homes is if we recognize that we are doing these behaviors to our children, in terms of neglect and abuse, we simply just have to stop. You know, this is a time where we shouldn't be hard on each other. This is a time where we actually need to check up on each other more than normal and love each other way more, you know, to make up for the deficits that some people are going through at this time. So that is what I can say to add to that.
Okay, so I think our time is almost getting up. And what are some of the solutions to this neglect and abuse? What do we do to be able to solve some of these problems?
I think that we shouldn't always, I know this will hurt some people's feelings, but we really should look at some of the cultures and traditions that we grew up with, and we have to analyze them and see how effective they really are. In terms of how to treat a boy and how to treat a girl, it is different, but we shouldn't just neglect a girl child just because she's a female, right? We actually have to pay more attention to female, like their feelings as children, because they're easier targets, you know, just overall. So I think that's one thing that we should do. We should try to really pay attention to children. And again, if a child is acting different, it's usually because of the way that they're treated. You know, children are supposed to be happy. They're supposed to laugh. They're supposed to play. They're not supposed to have too much stress on their mind. So if you've noticed that a child acts a bit different, then even if you're not the parent, maybe you should investigate as to why that's happening.
Okay, thank you very much. And what that I also add to is that in terms of neglect and abuse, we need more advocacy, more platforms to be created so that people will know that some of these things are actually happening. I'm very happy that domestic violence and stuff, we have a whole 16-day campaign that worldwide we are campaigning against these violences. And in fact, when we're looking at those violences, they come in several forms. And we would like to speak to the conscience of parents, conscience of caregivers, that you might not know what is in that person that you're supporting now. Don't abuse anybody. There are people who cannot approach others because they had abused them in the past. And whoever you are abusing, the person knows that you are abusing him. You yourself, you are aware that you are abusing him. So just put it to yourself that should someone be abusing me, how will I feel like? Yes, if I'm being neglected, how will I feel like? If I'm being abused, how will I feel like? And tomorrow it will amaze you that you could find yourself in the arms of this person you have abused. Just measure it for yourself, how that person also treats you if he's not someone who will easily forgive. Yes. So more advocacy. We using this platform to also raise more concerns, and we are saying that neglect and abuse in terms of this COVID-19 period. The pandemic is not over. Always remember to use your face mask, remember to wash your hand, remember to social distance, that the pandemic is still with us. And it's just like most countries are silent on the report of the cases. The second wave of the pandemic will be more dangerous than the first wave. And it is something like we must be talking about. How prepared are we? How many ventilators do we have? Our aged, how are they prepared? Yes, the young ones, we need more advocacy on some of these things. And these times, when you have a problem with the neglect and abuse, in fact, you should know that we must take a second look at solving the issue and be able to addressing it. They say, welcome back. Okay, please comment where you are. Okay. Yes, whoever has any comment will be waiting to take these concerns. So I was saying that the approach we are using is about the home or house approach or family approach. We have institutions. The institutions are the DOPS, domestic violence units and staff with the Ghana Police Service, the social welfare departments, and so on and so forth. Then organizations such as the Black Mental Health Matters, which we have a show we air every Saturday from 1300 GMT to 1400 GMT, can be a platform for you to come join and be able to learn something on some of these things on your mental health, because there is nothing that we do out there that is not being controlled or regulated by our brain. It is our brain that initiates any abuse. It is our brain that process it and complete it. It is our brain that make us abuse people. So if we are sure of what we put in our brain, it is always like a computer, garbage in, garbage out. If you remove abuse from your brain, automatically you will not abuse anybody. If you remove neglect from your brain, automatically you will not abuse, neglect anybody. Some people even neglect people and they are unaware. I was looking at those forms. Yes, unaware abuse or neglect. They are not aware that they are abusing the person. That is where they see the situation as normal. So those normal things are not at times helpful, because until they are drawn to that perspective that what you are doing is actually a form of neglect, they will tell you, oh, I didn't know. It's you who is telling me. I say, yes, this is, look, you go to schools for supervision, you see kids walk to school, no uniform, no sandals. When you go to the parents, they are like, how? So what is this about? They don't know that they are even abusing those kids, and they are our future generation. I ask them, do you walk naked to town? They say no. Do you walk barefooted? No. Then why are you making your child walk such? Is it because you cannot afford? No. So why? They don't see, some don't see the reason why they should buy those things for their kids. So we must look out for some of these things. So COVID-19 is still with us, and we must be very aware that the safety protocols are needed. The depressive cases are increasing, anxiety increasing, and mental health is at the forefront of this COVID-19 in terms of our psychosocial needs. And psychosocial needs, our social and psychological minutes now. Since some concerns are not coming, I know those who will watch us later will have issues that they will ask, and we could go on platforms to addressing some of them. So, greetings and good afternoon, good evening. Time is exhausted. Yeah, your last comment. Your last comment.
Oh, the last comment I have is, yeah, let's just do better to check up on each other and make sure that we all are accountable for each other. We are each other's keeper, even if we don't think that we are. And thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys next week, same place, same time, with another Black Mental Health Matters topic. Thank you so much.
And I'm most grateful for your time and your energy spent on us. God bless you. I don't know whether you are in the country or outside the country. We are extending our felicitations to you for joining via StreamYard, and you were live on United States of Africa, Black Mental Health Show Africa Millennial. That is where we stream live, and for the past hour, we were there and we spoke on neglect and abuse, what you need to see, the various forms, the mental health agony that it brings on us. We need to change our mental orientation. We need to look out for solutions. We need to walk to someone and talk to him that I have a problem. I think this person is doing me A, B, C, D. Can you call him and talk to him? Talk to somebody for someone to talk to somebody for your abuse or your neglect situation to change. Until that, I don't think we can face this issue head on. If we want to employ the services of the security services, it always worsens the situation, because they will come in and they will not try to address the issues. Walk to your psychologist, walk to your psychiatrist, walk to your mental health practitioner, and report the issue of the neglect or abuse, and let them take you through. You can walk to your social welfare worker and let him or her take you through the steps to be able to solving some of these issues. So thank you very much. Until next week, yeah, we are going to join live again and have another topic premiered. Congratulations and goodbye.
Goodbye.